Alright, welcome to Touchdown Talks. I'm Spencer Taylor. This video is going to be just mostly a reaction to the NFL honors that just happened tonight. Also, the announcement of this year's Hall of Fame class. And yeah, just going to also let you know, do have my Super Bowl preview coming up soon, tomorrow. And before I do get any further into this video, I do want to ask that you subscribe to this video if you're interested in NFL content of any kind. During the season and during the off season, I'll have you covered here on YouTube. Including especially in the off season, we might do anything. Really whatever you the viewer want. Let me know in the comments, and I will get to it. But whether that's tier lists, whether that's looking back at players and their stats this season, looking forward, we'll obviously look at off-season moves of all that, the draft, schedule coming out. I've always done that stuff, but along the way, I'll have content to keep you entertained. I know the roughly 6-7 months that we go without football, or at least without college, NFL, high school, those can be some slow months for us football fans. So gonna try to keep you entertained here. So please hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that further content. Hit the like button on this video if you did enjoy, and join me in the comment sections. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these NFL honors and the Hall of Fame class for this year. And then lastly, what are your predictions for this upcoming Super Bowl here in a couple days? So getting right into the NFL honors, we'll start off, we'll go kind of in order of the honors ceremony, from the some of the least notable awards on up. So starting off the show again, really not least, but first award, Salute to Service Award, presented by USAA. That went to George Kittle, tight end for the 49ers. And then the FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Year, they awarded Josh Allen for the quarterback, and then Jamar Chase, Bengals wide receiver, winning that. And then for your Hall of Fame class in here, we have 4 players getting in there, that being Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp. So those are your 4 players for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. One notable name that's not on there in his first year of eligibility is Eli Manning. You'll definitely be hearing conversations about that this week in this offseason, I'm sure. But, personally, I'm not too surprised that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I am in the camp that I would argue that at least someday Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame. I get it. A good portion of his career was, what the heck is going on? He's throwing a lot of picks. Doesn't look that great. But you also got to understand, you got to admit that on the other side of that is what he did in the playoffs, specifically in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady and Belichick. So, that's the thing, is my argument that I've heard from others. This isn't necessarily an argument I've come up with, but the argument that I think really sticks the most for Eli Manning being in the Hall of Fame eventually, again, didn't necessarily need to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but the reason he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, is part of the purpose of the Hall of Fame is to preserve, the story of the NFL and to honor players, coaches, people who were involved in creating the story of the NFL as it's been, since the beginning. So for me, when it comes to the question of should Eli Manning be in the Hall of Fame, the question that has been posed by others is, can you tell the NFL story from start to beginning, every year, every Super Bowl, all that? Can you tell that story without talking about, well, let's first say, can you talk about the NFL story as a whole without mentioning the Brady Belichick Patriot dynasties? Can you do that? No, obviously not. Nobody would question that. But if you look at the history of that dynasty, for example, what were some key parts of that in some of the years that they didn't win at all? And one thing that rises to the top that stands out, of course, is the Giants and Eli Manning. They won the Super Bowl twice against the New England Patriots in that time. So, and ended up defeating the would-be undefeated team of the Patriots as well in the Super Bowl. So, they pit. Not only did they win 2 Super Bowls within that dynasty against the Patriots, but they did one of those times against one of the best teams that's ever existed in the NFL. And so, yeah, again, if you're going to tell the story of the NFL and every single season, every single Super Bowl, and the key moments that led up to the results, obviously you're going to talk about the Patriots dynasty, but even just within those specific years, that's 2 Super Bowls, 2 wins that came against some pretty great teams, and who was the quarterback for those? And yes, did he play not so great in other seasons and other games? Sure, but in those specific moments, in those playoff runs, those specific moments in his career, Eli Manning, one of the greatest. So in those moments specifically, and the accomplishment that him and those teams with the Giants and Coughlin, what they achieved defeating the Patriots in those Super Bowls, it's kind of hard to skip over that if you want to tell the grand story of NFL history thus far. So with that, eventually I do think Eli Manning should be in the Hall of Fame. So, but that's your Hall of Fame class. Some really great legends there. Antonio Gates, tons of years with the Chargers. That's what I mostly remember him for. Jared Allen was with the Bears for a short stint, but that's definitely not the years he was known for. That was the end of his career. He definitely didn't have the greatest time with the Bears, but before that in his career, specifically with the Vikings is where I mostly remember him for. But he was a really good player. So then the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, one of my favorite awards, of course, being a Bears fan. Got a Walter Payton plaque up there behind me. So the award this year goes to the Jaguars defensive lineman Eric Armstead. So congratulations to him. Of course, that award, for those who don't know, goes to the player who has shown excellence both on and off the field. And moving on to the Next Gen Stats Moment of the Year, that is one of the things, obviously, a lot of these awards are, I don't know, kind of funny in that they all have sponsors and stuff, but whatever. And I hate reading this one off, but it's the award goes to Jaden Daniels for his Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears. So hey, maybe Tariq Stevenson should get part of that award for allowing Jaden Daniels to accomplish that feat. The AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, this is where we get into the certainly as far as performance on the field, these are the records going forward that are the most noteworthy, most talked about. For the Defensive Rookie of the Year, we have Jared Verse for the Rams. Great pass rusher. They picked up a really good talent there. Great way to help replace some of the talent you've lost recently on defense to retirement and other moves in the last couple of years. So great pickup for them. Well deserved. The Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Jaden Daniels. Not much of a surprise there. I'm sure most of us expected that for him. The Defensive Player of the Year, so we're past the rookies. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Patrick Surtain II for the Broncos. Cornerback for the Broncos, I should say. And then the Offensive Player of the Year got some MVP votes as well, but hard to win it when you're not a quarterback. The Offensive Player of the Year for 2024 is Saquon Barkley, running back for the Eagles. Obviously going to be playing here in a sec for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Is going to be very impactful in however that game shapes out. And then the AP Comeback Player of the Year for the second year in his career, and he joked about that, kind of sad to have to be the Comeback Player of the Year twice, but also a pretty good accomplishment to get that, is Joe Burrow, Bengal for the quarterback for the Bengals. Bengals just they got to get him some help. They got to get a good defense, and they got to figure out how to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase around and pay all of them. Then moving on to the AP Coach of the Year award. This one shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. This is Kevin O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. Kevin O'Connell, pretty widely seen these days as, the newer, one of the newest hot young NFL head coaches, who is, pretty darn young for being a head coach in the NFL. Is within the first few years of his time as a head coach and doing pretty well. The Vikings, obviously a disappointing end. It's too commonly known for Vikings fans in the playoffs, but though, especially for the expectations they had coming into the season, I've been well documented on this channel. One of, if not my most viewed videos to this day, is a video that I made 5-6 weeks into the season, and many of you Vikings fans certainly called me out on it, but even that video was me apologizing for my preseason predictions for the Vikings because they were way low. And even at week 5 or whenever it was I did that, I think it was closer to week 9, but somewhere around mid-season when I was upping my expectations for the Vikings, even then I was still low on how many wins they would end up with at the end of the season. And I mean, them getting Sam Darnold looking the best he's ever looked, by far better than probably most would have expected him to ever get to in the NFL at this point. The way he looked, and I mean, really just coming into the season in general for the Vikings, there was kind of this sentiment that, okay, they've got Justin Jefferson, but then they've kind of just got a lot of guys. They don't have like too many people on offense or defense that really jumps out of the screen at you. But this year they proved that that's not the case. They have plenty of good players, and certainly that coaching staff, really good coaching staff. Again, they got Sam Darnold playing lights out, until the last couple games, but nonetheless, definitely deserves the award there for Kevin O'Connell. And then last but not least, of course, the MVP of 2024 goes to Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen. This will probably come as a surprise to some not much. Obviously, it was a tightly contested debate this last month or so between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Of course, there was mention of Saquon Barkley behind it, but again, it's kind of hard these days for a non-quarterback to win MVP. And so really, for the most part, it was between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Another really weird, interesting thing about Josh Allen winning it is that Lamar Jackson was the one that won All-Pro this year, whereas Lamar Jackson is winning the MVP. Usually the All-Pro and the MVP often end up being the same player, especially being that it's largely the same voter base, if not completely the same voter base. I'm not totally clear on that personally, but either way, you would expect generally the All-Pro quarterback ends up being the MVP quarterback, but not the case this year. I do think part of that might be the fact that Lamar won it 2 times in a row. This year would have been his 3rd time. I don't know, but I do think for some voters, it probably felt a little weird to them, the idea of giving Lamar Jackson his 3rd MVP in a row. When the previous 2 times he didn't win the Super Bowl or anything. 3-time in a row MVP quarterback, and especially with how good Josh Allen's played this year, and even some of the previous years. Not saying that Lamar Jackson didn't deserve the 2 MVPs he's gotten, and certainly if he had gotten the one this year, I wouldn't have been against it. I wasn't necessarily too heavy on either side. I don't know. Personally, the MVP, these awards, I don't necessarily care about these all that much. I think they're interesting. I do think that they're cool in the sense of, honoring a player for doing well, but I think with a lot of these awards, there's certainly generally at least all the finalists that come out for each one. It's kind of like, they kind of all deserve, a lot of them kind of deserve credit. Certainly some years than others. Yes, there might be a more obvious candidate for some awards, like some of the other ones we mentioned for this year even, but, with ones like this for MVP, it's okay, do you go based off of... that's the other thing, is with the MVP award, a lot of it comes down to how you interpret what an MVP is, and for a lot of people that means different things. So, and I think that's different in valid ways for many people. So, either way, congratulations to Josh Allen, Kevin O'Connell, a lot of the other players that won these NFL awards. With that, I mean, we're on to the Super Bowl. This really feels like we're there. The Super Bowl is here. I mean, obviously, this whole week leading up to it is Super Bowl week. There's been tons of festivities, all the media, all the players, all sorts of Hall of Famers, all that are in New Orleans for the whole week. But, everybody, all of us around the country, around the world even, getting themselves ready and excited for Super Bowl parties. But, I mean, now the NFL honors has happened, at least for me, that's kind of how it always feels. As soon as NFL honors night happens, that's when you know, okay, yep, very next thing, Super Bowl, that's it. And then the season is sadly over at that point. So, and I do want to mention before I go, before I end this video, another video I will have coming up soon that you're probably wondering where it is from me is more of a video talking about head coaching moves this offseason. Most of the, if you've watched my shorts, you know I did a shorts video on some of the coaching carousel that's happened this month. I've been kind of radio silent on it the last week and a half, mostly because most of the head coaching positions have been filled. I've been kind of wanting to wait and see what offensive and defensive coordinators get brought in, what other kind of moves happen there. And then also we do still have the New Orleans Saints waiting. I expect they're waiting to hire Kellen Moore, who is the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. So obviously they can't hire him until after the Super Bowl. So I suspect that by Monday of this upcoming week, or maybe Tuesday at the latest, we'll probably have an announcement on who on who the Saints are hiring. Again, probably Kellen Moore if I had to bet on anybody. It'll also be interesting to see after that, what the Eagles do replacing him, what either the Eagles or the Chiefs do, depending on who loses. I mean, these are both pretty good teams, pretty good established franchises that are very smart in the league. So I don't necessarily expect anything drastic to happen, obviously, especially being that both have made it to the Super Bowl. But again, at the very least, replacing coordinators, that'll have to happen for them. But yeah, whenever we do get the New Orleans Saints hiring, then I will make a video and I will react to and give you kind of a grade and my thoughts on all the head coach hirings and maybe, sprinkle in some coordinator hirings as well as we go. But that'll be next week. I'll have my Super Bowl predictions coming up for you tomorrow. One last parting bit of news, of course, bit more solemn. Also the reason I'm wearing all my Bears stuff today, not NFL hat or anything, is unfortunately for Chicago Bears fans, Virginia Halas, the Bears owner, she was in the position of owner, I believe, since the 1980s. Virginia Halas passed away today at the age of 102. Lived a very long life, but a lot of outpouring from around the NFL community. From Roger Goodell, from even other teams around the league, including the Green Bay Packers. Had a pretty cool, very nice message on Twitter that I'll have up for you on the screen. Bit of a somber bit of news there, of course, but yeah, passed away at the age of 102. Not only had she been the owner of the Chicago Bears since the 80s, but she is also the daughter of the founder of the Chicago Bears and founder of the NFL, George Halas. That's why you see on Bears jerseys, you see the GSH. That stands for George Staley Halas. Bears mascot is named after George Halas. So, so the Bears, the oldest franchise in the NFL, founded by George Halas, who founded not only the Bears but the league itself. Bears have been going for over 100 years, and Virginia Halas passing away at 102, alive for basically all of it, and the owner for quite a few decades, has passed away. So I don't know for sure. I assume the ownership of the Chicago Bears likely passes down to George McCaskey, who is currently the chairman of the Bears, has been the chairman for 11, 12 years at this point. I've talked about his record as the Bears owner, but or chairman, anyways. But yeah, so he'll probably technically be considered the owner going forward, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it'll be between him and the rest of the McCaskey family. But that's it for the Bears. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.